Welcome to SharePoint Pittsburgh. My name's Caroline and I'll be introducing you to Lesson 4, Introduction to Web Parts. First we'll be answering the question, what are web parts? Then we'll be adding and using web parts. So what are web parts? Web parts are highly customizable windows that show information within a SharePoint site. Web parts are located within web part zones. There are many different built-in web part categories and types. Web parts can display data from sources such as lists, search results, forms, and other web pages. In adding and using web parts, we'll be adding multiple web parts to web part zones, adding an existing list to a web part zone, and changing and editing views on multiple web parts. I'm going to hand this over to Leo, who will be teaching you Lesson 4.
Thank you, Caroline, and welcome back everyone to SharePoint Pittsburgh. So let's go ahead and open our browser, and then we'll go ahead and log into our SharePoint site by typing in SP2010, and then we'll go to the store subsite. So now, as Caroline mentioned, the first question that we need to answer is, what is a web part? Well, in my opinion, web parts are pretty awesome. What they let you do is grab data from multiple areas and pull that data into one screen, so you essentially have all the data you want to see right at your fingertips. The best way to actually see this is by example, so that's what we're going to do now. So let's go ahead and edit the page. We'll click Page, Edit Page, and now we're going to go ahead and talk about what we're actually seeing here. You'll see two boxes here, and the things that I'm highlighting now are actually called web part zones. Web part zones are where web parts are placed into, and you can have multiple web parts in a web part zone. And web part zones are essentially on a web part enabled page or template. So now that we got all the boring details out of the way, let's go ahead and actually add our first web part. So we'll go ahead and click Add a Web Part, and you'll notice web parts don't have to just be a list. We have our recipes document library. There's all kinds of crazy stuff that you can add to a web part. You can even create custom web parts, but for now, again, we're just trying to cover the basics, and we're going to cover all the cool advanced stuff in the later lessons. So let's add our document library recipes, and now we just created a web part with the document library. Now, what's really cool about web parts is that you actually don't lose your functionality. If you recall last lesson where we talked about document libraries where you could check in and check out, we can also do that by clicking on the context menu, checking our version history, and again checking out and checking in documents. So that's the really neat thing about web parts, is the fact you get all this data, but it's not just viewable data. You can actually manipulate that data right there without having to click through all kinds of different pages to access what you want to access. So they're a tremendously nice feature. So now let's go ahead and add two more web parts. As I promised before, we'll add a list, if you saw the PowerPoint. So in this time, click on the web part zone, click Insert, add an existing list to a web part zone, and we'll add our flavors list. Click Add there, and one more, we'll just add the shortcut way. Click on web part and click Store Locations and click Add. So now that we've added all of our web parts, we're going to go ahead and change and create a view. So let's go ahead and click on the flavors web part. Okay, we'll go ahead and click List and Modify View. So now what we're going to do is actually click Created By and then click OK. And what you'll notice now is that we actually have the Created By column. Now the neat thing is if we go ahead and click Flavors over here, you'll notice the column hasn't changed. So that view that we edited is only actually the view is only pertains to the web part. So we didn't actually change our default view on the list as you saw a moment ago. So I really don't want to have this in list form. I really want to have the calendar view. So what we'll do is we'll go ahead and click Edit Web Part. We'll change the selected view from current view to the calendar, and we'll click OK, hit Apply, click OK, and then you'll see that now our seasonal ice cream specials from Happy Scoops are displayed in the calendar. So that's pretty neat stuff. So now what I'm going to do is rearrange this right web part zone by going to Page, clicking Edit Page, and then I'm just going to simply take this and drag and drop it above the calendar. And then I'm going to go ahead and stop editing. And now I've actually just rearranged my page that easily. That's a pretty awesome feature. So now what we're going to do is actually just simply show you that you can click on the column headings and organize the list. So again, these are fully featured components, which I think is the best thing about the web parts. Again, I mean, I've used a lot of different software systems before that can only display the data. These web parts actually let you manipulate the data. Well, that's everything for our first episode on web parts. I hope you enjoyed it, and stay tuned because we're going to be producing a lot more SharePoint lessons on multiple topics and definitely more on web parts in the future.